Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Life, Love, and Spirituality. Today's YouTube video is entitled, Righteous Rage. Really? To say that I have been horrified by the violent anti-Semitic protests that are happening on college campuses all across this country would be a vast understatement. My feelings and my anger and rage regarding what is happening is almost unfathomable. Yet I know that anger and rage in response to anger and rage produces nothing and only adds fuel to the fire that is already burning out of control. Ultimately, I decided I would do this YouTube video because there are Jewish people all over the world who are feeling the same exact thing that I am feeling. And that's particularly true for those of us in the older generation. Many of us know people who were murdered in the Holocaust. Many of us know people who barely survived and still walk around with the physical and emotional and mental scars of the Holocaust. 6 million innocent Jews were murdered. When I see trains on the railroad track carrying cargo, I immediately think about the train cars that carried hundreds upon thousands of emaciated Jews to their deaths in the concentration camps. However, I also always point out that there were 6 million people who were not Jewish that Hitler killed. These were academics, artists, musicians, the disabled, the elderly, and gays and lesbians. Ironically, the same people who are carrying out these violent anti-Semitic protests would probably be on Hitler's hit list had they been alive and in Europe during the time of his regime. Many people I know, as I said, survived or were killed in the Holocaust. And it's not inappropriate to compare Hamas with Hitler, because both have their stated objective, the annihilation of all Jews, the final solution, as Hitler referred to it. However, for people to compare Israel, which is only defending its homeland, to Hitler is absolutely incongruous. It is completely invalid. Remember, it was Israel and its innocent citizens that were savagely murdered, over 1,000 of them, on October 7th. More Israelis were hijacked, kidnapped, and brutalized, more than 100 of which are still being held hostage. That is, if they're still alive, and we don't even know. We know that women were raped. I mean, this is savagery. This is butchery. And yet there are some who say, well, it's not anti-Semitic behavior that you're seeing on college campuses. We're just protesting the Israeli government. Really? And is that why Jewish students are being spit at, are not being allowed to go to class, are being intimidated, and even attacked? Come on. When you wipe off the veneer, It is blatant anti-Semitism that is happening on our college campuses. You know, many of us, again, my generation and other Jewish generations who have moved to Israel, once the state was established miraculously in 1948. But prior to that time, Jews were homeless, persecuted, murdered, killed, driven from lands. That is the true history of the Jewish people. Not conquerors, but survivors. However, I don't think a history lesson would even faze most of these Hamas supporters. It is truly groupthink in its worst and most despicable form. Do you know that the day after Israel was established as a nation, the day after the nation was attacked by its Arab neighbors, less than 24 hours since when it was established, and the attacks have not stopped all this time. In fact, in the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel won a decisive victory, and that is when the Golan Heights, Gaza, and the West Bank were captured. Why is it then that that land is called occupied territory? Victors in conquest in war don't return land to their enemies. And so why is it referred to as being occupied? Please don't get me wrong. I am not unsympathetic to the Palestinian people, to any innocent people who are harmed or killed or displaced. Any caring person would feel sorrow for anyone and everyone who is in this impossible situation. And yet, why is it that the Arab nations surrounding Israel have a landmass 62 times larger than the tiny state of Israel, and yet none of those countries have opened up their borders to the Palestinians? Why aren't they raging against that? I believe that Israel, if you are honest, you will see it is a tiny sliver of land. It's the size of New Jersey, for heaven's sake. You could take the state of Ohio and put it in Israel several times. Are you kidding me that they are the oppressors? I don't think so. But I know, sadly, that none of what I say, none of this history will impact the mindset of those who are desecrating, literally, our college campuses, destroying buildings, hanging things on the people who established those college campuses, Palestinian flags, and justifying it by the words righteous rage. Are you kidding me? What is righteous about assaulting and vilifying and attacking innocent Jewish students on campus? But my hope is that anyone who listens to this, maybe you haven't known. You've seen the footage, you've seen what is being showed, and you think Israel is the oppressor, that they are the ones perpetrating all of this. And that is just not the case. Israel is defending itself, and Israel and most Israelis would only wish to live in peace and freedom. And Jews across the globe would just like to be able to wear their Jewish stars with pride and joy and not shame. So I share this in hopes that this will educate and inform people who really may not know all of this. Throughout my adult life, I have done so many things to try to educate my non-Jewish friends about Judaism and about Israel. I found out that there are many people, even in this area of Northeast Ohio, who have never met a Jewish person other than me. I find that incredulous. Many years ago, when I was a substitute teacher in a school district, they were hosting an international fair at the high school for middle school students. So actually for grade school students. So I went to the the teachers that were putting this on, and I asked, can I represent Israel in this international fair? And that thought had never occurred to them. Again, because there are not a lot of Jewish people, even in this area where that was a college campus community whose name you would recognize. They agreed, and so I set up my booth for Israel, and amazingly, I was located next to a booth of an Arab nation. And yes, we got along just fine. Also, many years ago, I knew a family whose children I thought so highly of. I thought so highly of the entire family. And so I asked the parents, could I invite the children to my mother's apartment to watch an educational video, a true story called Paperclips? It was the true story of a group of middle school students in a small rural part of Tennessee that never met a Jewish person and didn't know anything about the Holocaust. So they were trying to help those students understand 6 million innocent Jewish people slaughtered. So the students went about collecting paperclips. They wanted to collect 6 million paperclips to represent the 6 million Jewish people killed. It was such an incredible project that the students actually collected way more than 6 million paperclips. And all of those paperclips, some even have come from the families of Holocaust individuals who died in the Holocaust. And all of those paperclips are now on display in a German railroad car to make the point of the deaths of these innocent Jewish people. Also, in the book I wrote, Chesed, a Jewish woman's discovery of God's mercy, I talk about an incredible family, the Ten Boom family from Holland. Corrie Ten Boom is most known from that family, but that entire family risked and most gave their lives in support of Jewish people. They hid Jewish people in their apartment over their watch shop, and they made arrangements to smuggle those Jewish people out of Holland so that they would not be murdered. It's incredible. They even wore the yellow Jewish stars in support of Jewish people and in outright defiance of the Nazis. As you might have guessed, they were eventually caught, captured, and sent to concentration camps. And every single person in that family was killed. All except for Corrie, who they now believe was released based on a clerical error. The very famous movie, The Hiding Place, tells this story. And amazingly, there's a more current movie called Return to the Hiding Place, which actually is about college students who risked their lives and ultimately died smuggling Jewish families to freedom. Both are incredible movies, and you can Google Corrie ten Boom and even take a virtual tour of the apartment where they hid the Jews. Finally, there's another woman, Irena Sendler, a Catholic Polish social worker who saved nearly 2,500 babies and children from the Warsaw Ghetto. She also was on her way to being killed for doing this after she was brutally beaten. And yet, a member of the underground bribed one of the killing squad members, and she was released. To this day, Irena says that she didn't do enough to save the Jewish people. A fantastic Hallmark movie called The Courageous Heart of Irena Sendler is available. And Gal Gadot, the very famous Israeli actress who you may know as Wonder Woman, was planning to make a movie just called Irena. She was going to star and produce that movie. The production began prior to COVID, and unfortunately, I have not been able to find out if that movie is going to continue. But what Irena did, she wrote the names on small pieces of paper of every child that she saved, and she placed those in jars on land near where she lived. Check out Life in a Jar, and you will read her incredible story of heroism. So as I end this video, even though this has been difficult to hear, difficult to listen to, I am ending it on, believe it or not, a note of hope. I am a Messianic Jew, and I live my life by faith, hope, and love. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't some denial, pie in the sky, unrealistic hope that all will be well with the world. I don't believe that at all. But I do know that the God of Israel, the God of my ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has delivered and rescued the people he loves, even under difficult times and circumstances. And even if the whole world turns its back on Israel, I know that God never will. I pray that if you learned anything during this video, I ask and encourage you to share it with others who you think might also benefit from it. You can find my YouTube videos, lots of them about Israel, as well as my podcasts and my blog on my website, hisloveenduresforever.net. And until we chat again, may God's chesed, his never-ending love, kindness, and mercy be upon your life now and forever. Amen.
Yeah.